Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another dev stream. Today, we're going to be looking at some Ansifii stuff. As a reminder, the Discord server has a chat channel for sending messages during the stream. If you use this to say something foul, I will just punch you. But assuming that won't happen unless your name is a Scatu Mask, we'll probably be fine. And it will also save me from dealing with the YouTube chat impersonators. And yes, it looks like it uses your Discord account name instead of your nickname, which means Shirk is the Voidman. So if you see just a Discord logo and no name, that's who that is. What's up, Loler? And what's up, Shirk? I guess maybe I could get a. Maybe I could even just post the fucking stream here as well in the future, so people are aware when there's a live stream. But it probably doesn't matter that much. Okay, what has happened? First thing that happened is that we renamed a bunch of stuff, but we also, Veek was able to put together some fields that I've been needing for this particular purpose. So we have a successor field, a predecessor field. So you can go down a unit lineage, basically. That's pretty useful for a number of things. The other thing that this allows me to, or the other thing that was added recently was just generally like using, when you mouse over stuff like this, it says Magmite, you know, when you check out the gauge. Oh, that's only Magmite as well. Let's go to Constable. You see Hypervials. We now have renamed space to weight, and we also have weight capacity, which is right now prepended with a plus sign. So there's the amount of weight that a unit actually costs, and then there's the weight capacity. I don't know how this will probably change, and it'll probably be that the Roadhog has like 5 weight and 4 capacity, which will prevent you from being able to load a Roadhog into a Roadhog, because I don't want to have like class limitations where you can only put infantry in there or something. And then the Squire, I don't think I ever updated the weight on it, unfortunately. Yeah, I was thinking of adding a legend for and like a different highlight rule for successors, predecessors. It would probably just be one color that's like lineage, which would show other units that are like that, instead of it being 2 distinct colors. And what's up, Knight of the Realm, Zimbabwe? Agreed. Yeah, you can tell like if they're below, then you know they're successors, right? So we were, what's up, Vic? We were just talking about having a legend. This legend should probably be up top or on the right or something, maybe to the left. Something where you don't have to scroll to the bottom, because there's going to be 10 tech tiers, so you can't see the whole thing on the screen already. You're not going to be able to see the whole thing, especially if you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see that. So it should probably be like up in the top, like maybe even above the table of contents. It should be over here somewhere. But we're thinking of adding a 5th one that is lineage, which would be pretty useful. Yeah, floating somewhere. Various shades denoting each tier. Yeah, currently it is a bit. You could also put it on the bottom left, but this would probably only work on 1920 by 1080, like high resolutions. We need to see something scalable for all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I was just showing off the different updates. Another thing that we did was Veek did was that now it area of effect radii takes into account the different things that you actually have, so inner and outer. And we also have armor penetration as a field. I'm trying to find a unit that I actually configured to have armor penetration. I think the Thunderhead does. So armor penetration here we've got. You can see it on the Sentinel as well, which has a sightline predecessor, formerly known as the Watchdog. Farewell to that name. Roadhog needs to be changed soon at some point. You can see this is like almost like a sniper turret where it has very high armor pen for a tier 3 unit or building. But obviously, because it's a static defense, we can afford to make it a little bit more powerful. It also has 5 armor, which is nice. So you'll generally see structures increase. There will be 2 different styles of increasing vitality, I guess you could just say, where one of them will be armor. which means that you generally need higher tier units to defeat it. And then the other one will be, well, to defeat it efficiently. And another way will just be straight up increasing the health pool. And those health pool changes will basically mean they usually coincide with small armor values, because then the tier doesn't matter as much. You just need higher base damage. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes anyway. Yeah, I'm sure there will be some weird process that you have to do to figure out what exactly is. Restream to a Discord bot. What do you mean? Oh, like so that people could watch it in Discord. Yeah, I wonder if it is possible. I think they would have advertised that feature at me at some point, but that would be pretty neat. Then people could just join in and have a voice chat discussion without me, because I wouldn't be there, but they could talk to each other. That's a nice fucking message. That's the void emoji. You have to join the Discord server to see that emoji. All right, well, we know custom emoji don't work. What if we do okay hand? Okay hand works, but not fucking anything else. What a meme. Oh. Pretty good stuff anyway. Okay. So let us begin the proper work. So there's a couple of things I want to do before I target the Ansifii. I already know that there's some things I need to fix for the Ansifii specifically, which is I need to go through the Ansifii here, and the higher tier town centers need to be separated from tech structures. We need to have tech centers and town centers be completely different. And I think the treasury will probably not be a resource depot at all, and instead will be specifically designed to train workers and have the mescaloid stimulant behavior, which increases regeneration rate of resources. And so that will be the dedicated thing, but you can't return resources to it. That'll be the job of the safe house, which I'm still not sure if it should be tier 4 or tier 2 or tier 3 or something. I'm not sure where in the line it would actually be drawn. Maybe I end up moving it further up. But this safe house can currently, it can only train apprentices, which is the tier 1 worker. And then but it also is a resource depot. So, and it's cheaper to put down than the quarry, although it does require a little bit of hypervials. So you can imagine there's a couple of different ways that you can go about doing that. Now, the ministry is not going to have mescaloid stimulant 2. It's going to have something else if it has a behavior at all, and it will be a tech structure, I think, instead of it being a town center, because ministry sounds a bit more like a tech structure, in my opinion. But there will be, basically, it's not going to be guaranteed that every other unit or every other tier you get a new town center, which is currently what I was, the formula I was following. It might not even be that way for workers either. Like, maybe the Mason ends up being a tier 2 unlock. And then, you know, we figured that out separately. But the Mason is the tier 2 worker, or tier 3 worker now. The Architect is still the tier 5 worker. And Cardinal will return as a different unit, because it's just a very fancy unit name. Oh shit, it is Mesk. This is the first time I think he's ever chatted in one of my streams, and he doesn't even know it. So, all right. So yeah, I did say I wanted to do some other things though, and that mainly is I want to note some mechanics for transports, the weight and stuff, the death rules. I wanted to note mechanics about cleansing debuffs on heal, and I also just in general wanted to jump over to the Cosmonarchy page and go to the global changes section and make sure that, like, just basically look through the whole thing and say, like, hey, how is this exactly? Like, where are we going? What are we doing? Range indicators for auras. I think there will just, instead of being a range indicator, there will probably just be an effect below the unit, similar to Warcraft 3, but probably toned down so that it's a bit more readable, because it's very dominant in Warcraft 3, where, and I think the auras should have unique visual effects instead of it being like, oh, you are affected by an aura. Click the unit and then mouse over the status effect to find out which aura you are affected by. It's like, fuck you, dude. Just give me a unique read for each one. So yeah, we'll have to figure that one out. But placing a structure that has a weapon would be, yeah, that would be fine, I think. Yeah. Unless you mean placing the unit in the editor or something. That could be something that people could just disable. I guess even in-game for placing the turret or whatever, that could be something you disable if you don't like it. But maybe it would be a default option, I don't know. I'm not really opposed to having those kinds of reads if people want them. But I think it's probably better to just have them learn, like, it's not, I don't think there's an intrinsic downside to it. It's more about the subtlety of saying it's more about the subtlety of basically looking at that and saying, like, you don't have to learn this yourself through iteration and game sense and developing your game sense in the first place, because we're going to take care of it for you. That's where I think it's subtle, and it is a bit more of like there is a downside to that because it's allowing people to just get away with it. Now, I mean, some stuff you just have to tell them when they mouse over it or whatever. Maybe when you mouse over a weapon that has like range 8, it would draw like a circle or something. I don't know. That might be enough, because then it's like you're deliberately trying to get that information. It would be like mousing over a tooltip for training a Maverick and showing the resource cost for it, right? So I think that's probably fine, personally. Okay. So let's take a look at our mechanics. All right, this is where we can do some alterations to our fucking microphone is what we can do. As in like hovering over a spell order or something? Yeah, that's probably fine. What we can do is we can go under the assumption that we're going to be consistently doing that when you're mousing over stuff. And then if we feel like it's a bad thing after the fact, we can take a look at it later. Owned. Fucking swing arm is a little testy today for some reason. Well, if you've selected 100 of the same unit that all have the Psystorm thing, then yeah. Maybe the drawing operation could just show range. I don't know. Maybe it should only show if you only have one selected. Fuck me, dude. I was thinking that you could do like something where where the circles meet, they wouldn't overlap, and instead they would turn into like a cloud shape or a bubble shape or something. If it ends up being too annoying to implement, then we just don't have to bother about it, but... Yeah, it could be something really basic, I imagine, that would still give you some sort of understanding of like how far the weapon or ability works. You can only mouse over the weapon icon in if you have one unit or maybe one unit type selected. At least if we go the Brood War route, you can only mouse over it when you only have one unit selected. I think maybe it would be nice to, if you have like 12 of the same unit selected, you can actually see what weapon they have and what armor they have, like whatever their those icons are for them. That would probably make a lot of sense. Just the same way you can always see their command card. So I don't know how we would end up handling that, but that's something we can figure out later. I don't think we have to spend much more specification on that. That's just the way that the rules work. Allied transports can be used by... so say transports can be used by allied players, but and in such cases the in cases where allied units are inside a is getting sirened by a fire engine. Ahmed struck again. I don't like the tab to switch. It's automating the selection of the multiple units. You just don't do that, obviously. The idea that you can have a focus to change the command card is actual automation and reduces the skill expression because you're just hitting tab instead of like actually selecting them. You just I think just Control Shift Alt all of those modifiers to click on the stuff in the actual thing to change your selection is fine. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's I think it has a very negative impact on gameplay. And it's also not even that much faster when you have like more than a few, but it does lead to some. It's probably a little bit worse in StarCraft 2 because of the smart casting thing, but I just don't actually see it. Yeah, now that I think about it, in absent smart casting, I don't even think it would be useful. So yeah, it's not even really. It's not even really that noticeable. Yeah, I don't think we would massively need to worry about that personally. The weapon and armor displays, and to a lesser extent the order displays, are really only there for unfamiliar players. They're not going to be used by skilled players. Like, the skilled players won't even bother looking at them. Well, knowledgeable players with developed game sense, because they won't need to. Ground transports will also kill the loaded units, except if they have a specific behavior that defends them, like a evacuation thing, which is what a bunker type structure would do. Although I don't have any plans for a bunker yet, but I'm sure there will be a regency that has it. Probably will be the Ansifii, actually. At least one of the regencies that have a garrisonable structure. Yeah, I think this is fine. I don't think there's any other transport. This is like specific changes to cause monarchy, but I mean to brood war, but I've already noted the transports can be used by. I don't think that's. I'll say are never class restricted to specific unit types and can be used by allied players. 3. Get your surprise 3 out of here. All right. Let me find weapons, armor, and penetration. Okay. Well, no, it says there's never any restrictions related on unit types. I think that's explicit enough. I like how as soon as I added this, the YouTube chat just became empty, which is pretty good. Pretty appropriate, actually. Fuck that place. All right, what do we have for... Oh, I had to get pull. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Yeah, a transport that can transport a Minotaur will be able to transport, like, it'll be very larger than the Minotaur, so. I will endeavor to make that the case, anyway. I haven't worked on the Macrolon mech yet. I'm focused a lot more on just general concept work and stuff. Later this week? Well, no, I think it'll probably be next week, because next week is when I'm done with a bunch of other obligations. I'll be making a more decided push on the model side, because I would like to get, even if they're really placeholder and junk, I would like to get some understanding and familiarity. I was talking with Vika about this earlier. Some familiarity with the pipeline for exporting a model to a sprite sheet very quickly, to configuring it in the first place, like the model, the textures. Get my technical knowledge up to task, and even if I just only spend a week where every day I'm working on it for an hour or two, that will still give me a lot of familiarity with it. So that's the plan. So we've done transports. What else were we going to do? Scratch pad here. Cleansing debuffs on heal. Okay. So we'll have a section on healing then. Can even put this. I guess this would be vitals, actually. Just call that that. So where do we start with this? Something as crucial as vitals. So we'll say base stats, base unit stats in Xibalba are not always static and can be buffed or debuffed. I'll just say not static. I'll just can be buffed or debuffed by in both temporary and permanent ways. All buffs and debuffs can also be cleansed with it'll be a separate paragraph. I was thinking about the trouble of having passive regeneration not trigger the cleanse for debuffs. And I think I've settled on the idea that you shouldn't be able to cleanse yourself, and it should just be characterized as external. And innate passive regeneration is internal. It's part of the unit. That's a cleaner separation from a conceptual standpoint. And it also means that duelists that have the life regeneration passives or something, like the Exitralisk and the Ultracore in Cosmonarchy Brood War, are no longer able to cleanse themselves if they reach a maximum life bar heal. And I think that's actually healthier for gameplay because that way you can use that to counter their ability to heal themselves. And we can go a little bit more fully fledged on the concept of healing based on, certain health bars or whatever. Yeah, there'll be some ridiculous units, don't worry. Yeah, that's kind of I think that's still a buff that is on the unit. It's not like if there was an ability that where when a unit, say there's like a unit that works kind of like the Apostle, where when it attacks, it heals units that are near the target. Imagine instead that the Apostle life steals when it's attacking, it just gets life steal, and that the overheal, any overheal that it gets, overflows to allies nearby. That overflow would be lifesteal, sourced from lifesteal, but it's from another unit. So that would be that would count as deliberate or external healing. But if it's I'm getting this temporary or even permanent buff that gives me lifesteal, it's still coming from me and my weapons, even though it was given to me by somebody else. So I would still consider that internal or innate. I'd like to see a Cathrostalor. There you go. That's what I would like. It's actually really funny that like the Cathrostalor can be transported, right? In the first place because it's enormous. As it is going to be like the size of it, it's like going to be like the Ultra Core will be the size of like its. It doesn't really have feet, but if it had feet, the Ultra Core would be the size of its foot, one of its foot, one of its feet. So it's a very very large creature for sure. That's just immense fucking slug. The idea that you can shoot a transport as well is really funny to me because you could load a transport into it and it just fires it as a fucking projectile. That means you could actually. I think that it would still have capacity, right? It would have weight capacity, but you could theoretically load a transport that's full with other units as long as the weight isn't too much. And the Cathrostalor would be able to fire it off. So you could fire like a Roadhog from the Ansifii that's, packed with some infantry and just start vomiting fucking, transports with infantry in it. Yeah. That's a really exciting concept to me. Just the wacky concepts that I have, but like I can already see how they would all commingle. All the gameplay systems would work pretty well, as far as I can tell, anyway. I can't believe I'm already almost out of water. Jesus Christ! All right. I guess that's really all we need to mention about buffs and debuffs. Maybe there's some other thoughts that I can slap in there later. Oh, for weapons, I should add information about height. We're removing the one less damage. That's not necessary. Some melee units will be able to attack air, like melee air units, archons, although they're not exactly melee. Obviously attack air. There will be some units that are just tall enough that they can, yeah. But not all of them. It just doesn't make any sense, obviously. And I don't even really think it's that much of a hard counter, because in order to get air units, you have to tech into a deliberately new field where you're probably not going to have that much strength, and your opponent has to have deliberately not trained units that can attack ground and air, or that can attack air, despite the fact that they presumably did scout you and find out that you were going that way. So I don't think it's actually a problem. It is obviously, in a literal sense, a hard counter, but when you can avoid that so easily, it doesn't really seem like it's that big of a deal. I can't believe all this stuff that we wanted to do that it's like the massive delay when switching player slots. What the fuck? Insane. And not being able to switch to and within a forces with computer slots. Good one. I guess technically this is actually done. I forgot about that. I don't know why this would have to be set to user select. Oh, in map settings. In yeah, okay. I know what that means. Three observer slots. Witness slots, actually. I guess we should note the plans for collision. Yes, Beaver. There will be like fleet transports. Like you can think of the carrier in Brood War. The main idea is that you basically would see the cargo in there as like, oh, 8 interceptors, or in Cosmonarchy it's Solarian with 12 stewards. But you get the idea. In the context of like other convention, you would imagine maybe a very large, tanky transport that is carrying with it like 20 mutalisks or something, and could, the mutalisks themselves could be picked apart easy, but they can be deployed on site, or something to that effect. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'll have a vision section basically. That's fine. I'll read it a little bit closer when I'm done with the collision thing. Do I have an example of... No, not in this. Oh, I think that's fine. I think it's A for this kind of ship. So I'll search capital ship and it'll tell me. Yeah, okay. Most obviously this the term right now is very tech focused because it's referring to like constructs like spacecrafts and corvettes, gunboats. But eventually I might come up with a term that's less artificially chauvinist. Something that would include biological and energy-based things. All right, so you were giving me vision notes. We have 2 seconds of reveal for attacker, 2 seconds of tracking on loss of sight. Wait, what? Seconds of tracking on loss of sight reveal. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay. I'll just fog of war. I'll write some brief description of fog of war itself. Let's see. This reveal lasts for 2 seconds after the last attack. Okay, that's fine. I'm not sure if this will always be true that it has to be hostile. It might be also neutral, but I'll think about that. Because I can see an argument for both sides on that one. So we shall see. Oh yeah, true. We'll have to have some sort of sanity check for how far away the unit is when they... Because if you teleport out, I don't think you should still be tracked. At least I can see an argument for not tracking them, basically. So it's a bit of a concern. Like if you're teleporting to another location entirely, you get recalled. You're saying truly invisible as in you can't see them whatsoever? That would resolve the issue of being like... So basically I had the idea that you'd be able to force target terrain. And obviously if you see visual distortions, like, oh shit, I can just do that. I can just force target them and kill them that way. So... then you have to decide why you... Like how to implement that for the AI. Because obviously the AI would just be able to do that every time to a perfect degree of accuracy if you didn't hamper them. So I guess them being truly invisible does resolve that issue. Obviously they would have the cloak shader effect on them for allies and when detected, but they would be invisible to enemies other than if they were not observed. They were not witnessed. Allows targeting and what? Selection? This is tracks HP. All right, hopefully that's explicative enough. I'm not sure what you mean by decloaking should be global and it would be same as the reveal mechanic. Well, you said allows targeting, which makes me think you can issue an order to a unit that is revealed or that is being tracked for those 2 seconds. So, if that's not what you meant, then you should explain. It's also not very intuitive that you can see a unit, but you can't target the unit. So, you probably should just make it so that it allows targeting for those 2 seconds. We'll have to have some sort of read on the unit that says being tracked for those 2 seconds. Maybe that would be... that could be a tell based on the animation, actually. We were having a conversation a while ago on the server where we talked about the animation being set up in such a way where it would show... there would be an idle animation when they're not in combat, and then there would be a an active animation, action pose or whatever. So that could be handled. That wouldn't be a tell. That would actually be a very intuitive way to show that, like, oh, this unit is expecting trouble because it's it has been revealed to the opponent in some way. I don't know what reveal means in this context. Obviously, when you see a unit in your active vision, you can target it. But if you see a unit being tracked and you, like, every player is going to issue an order targeting a unit that they were already targeting just to tell their units to attack it again and then lose the target because they can see a unit but can't target it, if you know what I mean. So it will be very unintuitive if you cannot reissue more units to target that unit. So I think we should make it so that you can target it. Or we should axe the system. It's one or the other. I don't personally think it'll be that big of a deal, but I don't know. We'll have to try it. What's up, James? I don't know if tiles is the right word, but we'll use that for now. I guess we could just say of the surrounding of their surroundings. Yeah, global is what it is in Cosmonarchy, or is it what it's what it should be in Cosmonarchy. That's what I always Cosmonarchy Brood War. That's what I always intended it to be. It was always supposed to be global. I thought all of them were terrible, but I can't really say all of them because I only played a tiny bit of Morrowind on console, a tiny bit of I don't think I ever played Oblivion. I think maybe I played like 10 minutes of Oblivion on PC on at a friend's computer, and then the only Skyrim I ever played was like 1 hour of trying to play a co-op mod, and it just crashed. So then I uninstalled it. But there's obviously no value in those. In Skyrim specifically, I know enough about it to know that there's not. They did not try very hard. But I can't say much for the other games because I just haven't played them very much. But it never seemed like a franchise that would be particularly gripping. I heard about the story of like them blowing the entire voice actor budget on one guy to deliver like 10 lines in I think that was Oblivion. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, that's the co-op mod. It crashed when we tried to get on a horse. Bye. Yeah, it's because they couldn't afford to pay him for like a long role, I'm imagining. So I mean they could barely afford to pay him to begin with for the small role that he did play. Destroyed. He was probably used as marketing for the game though, just because he's a big name, you know. Nice prank, TBH. Hostile structures that were once revealed persist in the fog of war. I guess I should explain the shroud. It's probably in the trailer too, or something like that, if I had to guess. So this is basically the same way that it works in most games, so. I guess instead of vitals, this really should be buffs and debuffs. And we can move this below weapons. And I still had construction to denote, but I think we might stop after I document this. Well, he doesn't have a name in Discord, so what did you expect? His account name is blank. Don't know how anybody adds him. You. Well, there's nothing to pitch yet. I just have game design documentation. I don't have a demo or anything. I mean, I have a demo, but it's using proprietary assets. So I guess maybe they wouldn't care as much, but they would need to see that, like, they're not going to supply me with the art guys. I would have to then say, yeah, I'll go find an art guy, which, you know. And they would also probably want control over the game and stuff. I was not interested in that. No, his nickname is not his actual name. His nickname is his nickname, bro. I think that's the point. All right. I am out of water and it is dangerously warm here, so I think I will take this moment to get some more water. We'll be moving on to the Ansifii tech tree when I return, because we've done our due diligence on mechanics. So I guess I can go into the scratch pad and check that off. And then we can just do this. So that's the plan. I'll be back. Get some more work. BRB. I am you. And I am back. And you're back. What's up, homie? All right. We can just close this out, actually. I was also thinking that maybe I should use Visual Studio Code for the tech tree editing so that I don't have to keep using Notepad++ for the tech tree editing, because I just use it for Brood War stuff, Cosmonarchy, Xibalba stuff, like planning and conceptual shit, and like I guess that's pretty much it. Those two, but then I also am using it for this. Like, probably be better if I. What? Excuse me? Nice. What a disaster. All right, let's go ahead and try to open a folder. This software was never very functional. Did it not BRB me? What the fuck? Did I get owned? Stream Deck owned me. It's my worst fear, TBH. It gave me the check mark and everything, but maybe I hit the wrong button and didn't notice. I have never heard of it, no. Wow, that sounds like a pretty good idea. It's almost like I made a whole clip on that. All right, let's go back over here. Fire up Ansifii. Yeah, I guess I can just look at the frames, actually. Okay, what do we want to do here? We're trying to change the treasury into something else. I don't even know if you need another town center, TBH. I think maybe the treasury can be a... I mean, the treasury sounds as a name like it would be a drop-off point. I'm glad I was accidentally selecting the N. That's a fucking simulation. Okay. Yeah, our first order of business for the tech map is to delineate between town center and tech center. I mentioned this before. We're going to bang it out. I think because there's actually a decent amount of like climate related stuff here, which is kind of funny. Like there's the cloudburst and the thunderhead. I guess those are really it, but the climatarium or whatever is kind of neat. Yeah, well, maybe take a look at it, see if it's any good. There's a lot of familiarity in Photoshop, but obviously maybe there's something better anyway. Yeah, maybe I can call it I just remembered that term. Weather vane. Ansifii weather vane as the tech center, TBH. Good work. U. It's actually B, idiot. And let's do... I wish I could like control left click to navigate to the file. That'd be really useful. I can't even alt left click? What the fuck? Oh, this doesn't even enable the soft spot anymore. I should remove that. So, Captain C, Iron Vault, Planetarium. Oh. Okay. So now we can open up the... Well, first, I guess what we should do is we should go through and... settle on a nice basic cost. Now, again, these mid-table tiers are going to be easier to specialize into. So the mid-table tiers tech structures are not going to be very expensive. The off ones are 3, 5, 7, 9. Those are going to be the very expensive ones, which is why the weather vane is significantly more pricey than the dispatch and also than the trove, for that matter. Magmite will probably be more used, like more heavily preferred by the odd number ones. I'm not sure yet, but it still should be more than what it is, but that'll probably be where I leave it for now. Okay, Now we jump to dispatch. What's the true of it anyway? So it won't be ministry. We can actually leave this blank for now. Re-add it later. I guess if we find you, Mason, we can say requirement. Okay, I already did that. All right, that's fine. The in a stream. Okay. What's up, Bailithal? Dude, I like how even though there was no way of frauding me with your actual Discord account, you still gave me the hello. Good looking out. Oh, tier 0, by the way. What is this? B weather. What? What? The fuck? Oh, this needs a YML. Owned. I was so confused there. Okay, there it is. Weather vane, tiered tech. We like what we see. Oh, fuck! From one fraud to the next. I don't know why it was just called weather. That was a pretty good prank. Oh, I think for the Mason, I didn't add in that it builds. Oh, I need to add the weather vane, actually. This was something that it builds. What the fuck? I do wish I had access to, like, again, control left clicking on stuff to navigate to the file, but that there's no way for it to really know that that's what it is. It's just something that is intuitive to me, even though it doesn't really make sense. cool. And the ministry is tiered tech. Oh, I didn't put in a ministry successor, which is my bad, for the Trove. Okay, so we've fixed up all of those things. Very nice. We have now carte blanche to actually go a little bit further and change up some stuff. I still don't know if the safe house should be tier 2, 3, or 4. It feels like it could be anywhere in there. It can only train basic workers, but I don't know. There's something about it that feels kind of like it should be earlier you should be able to access it earlier or something. Particularly given its cost. But maybe then, if that's the case, it should have less armor or less health or something, less vitals somehow. Man, the stats are definitely going to need some serious. We're gonna need to take some serious looks at it. I'll put it that way. The soft spot is a new take on the shaman concept. It's an air unit. Well, it's also a town center or a resource depot, so it's not just a forge. And it's also cheaper to put down and quicker to put down than a quarry. I kind of want to push the Regency into something a little bit more like oriented towards well, okay, so here's the thing, right? So the dispatch and similar types of structures would be possible to conceptualize this way, where basically we have these even structures are cheaper to access. So the odd structures are where the big money comes in. I actually haven't even done the ministry's tech overhaul yet, or cost overhaul. But the weather vane you can see is 400 magmite, 600 hypervials, and 60 seconds. It actually takes longer than even the Trove does. The Trove is quicker to put down. So we could conceptualize this actually as something where it's like once you get past this big breakpoint, then you have a ton of stuff that you can put down with impunity, almost. Like I could probably drop the captaincy cost a bit, and the I don't even think I modified the Iron Vault cost. It looks like it's the same thing as the captaincy, actually, which is pretty funny. The Climatarium is the same thing as the Omnibay, which is obviously a mistake. Actually, let me reopen the weather vane. The thing about making the safe house unlocked by the weather vane is that it already unlocks the treasury, which gives you the resource regeneration stuff. Maybe the Trove could unlock the treasury, though. That could also work. It's a little bit more reasonable, I guess. So we could just swap the Trove, or we could swap the treasury and the safe house, basically, which would be fine. was thinking of the name Octagon for some high tier infantry tech structure. That would probably be like a tier 6 tech structure or something that unlocks some specialist units. I think that could be pretty epic actually. It's pretty crazy to see tier 6 in a file. That's pretty nice. All right, so we got that. I do need to figure out a name for enabling the Intendant and the Thunderhead. More like Dunderhead. I wonder if it would be... Calling something a tavern sounds a little ridiculous in the sci-fi context, but... Maybe canteen or saloon would be a bit more reasonable. I kind of feel like saloon could be used for the strong arm, and I guess the constable could be renamed to something else a little bit more appropriate for that kind of thematic. That way we wouldn't have something as formal as academy, and maybe the academy could be for the tier 4, and then you'd have octagon for tier 6, and that I think would probably work. I guess I should actually pull up the Mason over here. And the apprentice. Oh no, the architect. Just so that I can add these new structures in. Wherever they may end up. That's another thing I have to do is take safe house and replace it with treasury. And then I guess I could just take this whole list. And paste out. So yeah, let's find the academy in this list as well. And we'll copy that and rename this to Saloon. I guess that should be fine. Although saloon is a little bit more. I don't know. Canteen feels probably a bit better. I think they even call things canteen in the actual military too. So that actually makes a bit more sense. So then this would be tier 4, which means it would be after safe house. You could grab this and that. Okay, now we can add. Let's put this at tier 4. And we'll say. So I think that should work out fine. I just need to now go into the units. And once I'm done with that, I can just push this. I find Thunderhead and set its requirement to yeah, Academy was right. Okay, should be fine. Oh, the other thing I do need to go through, though, is say the strong arm needs to require canteen now instead of academy, and the same is true for the constable, which we'll probably have to rename at some point. Oh yeah, and I guess we should probably pick a better set of icons for these so they're not so the same. Jesus Christ, what a lame song. Oh, I didn't want to fucking close that one, Jesus. I'm glad this is considered open recent. Oh, nice program. I don't think we need this anymore. That. We will reopen some of the structures. We're going to do canteen. Find an icon for it. Probably won't be too difficult. We could use the bunker one. That's pretty funny. And I don't know, we'll just use that for now. Okay. So that's pretty good, I think. We'll go back to Octagon. We see Predecessor Academy, which takes us to Successor Octagon. Predecessor Canteen unlocks Intendant and Thunderhead, requires Trove. This one requires Dispatch, has no predecessor. Succeeded by Academy, unlocks Constable and Strongarm. We go to Constable and says, requires Canteen. Strongarm requires Canteen. Thunderhead requires Academy. Okay. Oh yeah, here's one where we're missing a link. We have to go to Captaincy and add Intendant. Okay. It was pretty cool, actually, to see when I clicked on Constable to see the successor there. I don't know. Still getting used to that, I suppose. But, yeah, pretty nice. So, I still want to go over and give a bit of an overhaul to the early tiers, but at least now we've got a better sort of tech progression, I think. And a lot of that is admittedly, like, if you guys have been around the stream for enough time, you'll notice that a large portion of my work, like the unit concepts or whatever, they involve a decent, like a non-trivial amount of like just reliance on the names themselves, basically. So, that is what it is, but it is kind of funny at the same time. All right. Oh, I never modified the safe host to be from the weather vane. For some reason, the Trove. Oh, on weather vane. What's up, Mutas Dozen? Yes, it's Xibalba. You got an extra L in there, but other than that, yours was correct. Oh, for some reason, Weather Vane also is broken. Requires the quarry when it should require the dispatch. Okay, now I think we're ready to fix up tier 1 and 2. Zabal brother. Imagine if that's what we called our... That would be like a very cringe way to refer to our players. Because I was thinking we would just call our players Cosmonarchs, but obviously... Or just Monarchs, I guess. But it doesn't quite work out if you're playing a game other than Cosmonarchy, right? So if I'm trying to refer to the whole Xibalba fan base, are you a Zabal bro? That's cringe. Okay. So I'm thinking at this point we probably want to spend a bit more time on tier 2 specifically. But I think we're... Oh yeah, I wanted to modify the... Yeah. We can work into the Squire. Let's see here. I just jump into the Squire here, because I know I just never updated its weight. Probably do that. And I also needed to do that for the Roadhog, wherever that thing is. There it is. There you go. My Zabal brothers. I think we just call our fans frauds, to be honest, because we're the No Frauds Club. It makes sense. Oh yeah, I also had to do the Climatarium and Iron Vault. They have the wrong costs. Zabalbians, Zabalboids. Zabalboids sounds like Zabalboys. I like that. But Zabalbian is pretty, I think that could work. Also, if we're gonna have our fraud version of Xibalba, it probably has to be Fraudbalba, because you could do Zafraudba, but that doesn't really sound right. Zabalboy brothers, don't say that. That is highly illegal. Climatarium. Ah! To Magmite. It's to forecast. Owned. I was one letter away from being banned. All right, so we did some cost updates. That's fine. Close up all this high-tech junk. You'll notice that I guess the further right we get in the tech tree, but just in general, in armor and orbital, you're going to see less unit lineages, or the lineages that are there will be a little bit less consistent. It'll be a lot shorter lived. So you might get like a unit that gets a sequel, maybe even 2 times. So you might get like a lineage of 3 because 3. But you're probably not going to get a lineage of like 7 or something, which is what a lot of the infantry are going to be like. I do have to conceptualize a version of the like a tier 3 waylay that's a sort of like a weird combination of the waylay and the gauge, where it's a melee unit or a really short range unit. I guess that just is the waylay. I was thinking of basically like a shotgunner that jumps in the similar ways, and that ends up being like a very common shock trooper to use. So that would be a natural sequel. I don't know about the weight for the cutlass only being 2, but I guess it is supposed to be fairly light. It'll probably end up being 3 later. I was also thinking maybe of moving the Maverick's weight down to 1 to match the hotshot, because that way when you have they're characterized by their ability to be deployed on the battlefield en masse, even by transports, or maybe even we could say especially by transport. So I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Instantly out of water again. Owned. So yeah, I guess real quick I can do the concept of the gauge, but I don't actually know what, or the waylay 2.0, but Ansifii gorilla. Reasonable. Acrobat would actually not be that bad of a word, except it doesn't have any power to it whatsoever. Jeez. It's like that is. You might as well call the waylay the acrobat, actually. Holy fuck. It's so basic. Even then, it's kind of a fuck term. Funambulist. I never have any luck trying to clean my glasses ever. Owned. Alright. Owned. I'm also trying to imagine conceptual compositions where you have like a large number of hotshots and waylays. Well, I guess you wouldn't have a large number of them. Your main bread and butter in the early game would be hotshot gauge with support from waylays for scouting and flanking. And you would, tech into the other branches for something like squires would be more harassment oriented. Roadhogs would be for transport. I got to rename those eventually. Dispute would be scouting. Auroras would be maybe limited scouting, but also have the like a fair amount of. I have okay DPS, but they're basically fire support in that sense, and then soft spots for healing. And so I wonder if it's not feasible to like. I think the hotshots are the all rounders. The gauges are the front lines. There's probably something that you're missing for. I guess like the only immediate lack of something at tier 1 is probably like large range. And then I guess combat disruption, but that's not something that you need necessarily at tier 1. You got like multiple ways to gather information. You have the waylay and the dispute for information gathering. You've got the waylay and the squire for harassment. You've got the roadhog for transport, although it's fairly limited. And you've got the soft spot for healing. You've got the Aurora and the hotshot for general combat, the gauge for frontline. Yeah, so I'm not sure what exactly you would be missing for a more well-rounded composition without the addition being something that just should be relegated to another tier. Like crowd control is one, but you can get that at tier 2 with the addition of the strong arm. The constable is also like almost like something you would put behind gauges, but also something that's melee. So that's like another case where it's a fairly solid unit. Obviously, Cutlass is single target range. That's where you get the high range from. Anchor is like, I guess it's kind of like a tier 2 Roadhog almost, but it's not really. It serves a different purpose. And then Path Sign is for AoE, area denial. Motive is for an advancing line. So yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of things that we haven't covered yet that the Ansifii are going to have access to and that other regencies will have access to. But I actually forget what the fire on the move thing is. It's probably just called fire while moving. see if that was enough for this one. Okay. So that wasn't exactly what I was expecting to get a concept done for, but I think I've determined that tier 1 is more or less finalized. There's a chance that maybe some other structure gets added, but I think if there was another structure or even another unit to be added, it would be in tier 2. And that's where I have to decide if I want to leave the canteen at just unlocking 2 new units. Because I'm basically saying that if you're going to dispatch, right, you're probably going to get a canteen, actually. It's probably going to happen, but you might not bother with any of the other stuff because it specifically feeds into Fulcrum and Omnibay instead of feeding into something else further down the line. It's not like you need the Academy and the canteen to get the Constable and Strongarm sequels, the Intendant and the Thunderhead. So tier 2 might also be more or less taken care of as well, with what the branches I'm currently supporting. I mean, we have 9 units at tier 1 and only 6 units at tier 2. If we copy that over with 9 and 6 in each tier, that would obviously be like 15 times 5, which is 75. Still a respectable number of units for sure, but it's not the 100 that I thought we were going to get. And that's, again, if I don't feel like it's necessary for us to get to this arbitrary number that I've picked, then that's probably not necessary. And we'll just, you know, as long as I feel like there are sufficient options to explore over a long period of time, and with very long game times, that's really all I care about. So as long as we've satisfied that requirement, the number of units doesn't really matter. But there is a certain amount that you're going to need for achieving, like, being able to say, I'm still at not at max tech 90 minutes into a game. So, and that will obviously also require a lot of fine-tuning. But finalizing some draft of the Ansifii tech map will really help when I'm coming up with the cores, the fundamental pillars of the other tech maps. I was thinking of starting after the Ansifii are in some happy place for me, which might not be completely done, but maybe the first 5 tiers really fleshed out. That's probably when I'll start to pivot around and take the wide but shallow approach of doing a bunch of tech work for Ambraseat and Githroven and Malkaldas and Keltar. I think there's one other, Psychora. So getting like all of their stuff somewhat taken care of, I think would be pretty helpful actually for putting that sort of thing together. So yeah, I think there's a pretty strong argument to make for that sort of thing anyway. So we'll just have to wait and see what all comes of it. But maybe I do tiers 1 and 2 and a spattering of other stuff for each one of those other retail regencies, just to get my bearings on what their designs are actually going to be. And then something that Vic was asking me earlier today was like what units from Cosmonarchy are actually planned to be moved over. And I feel like, you know, in some fashion, you'll probably see versions of all of the units in Xibalba, just because we have so many other units in the first place. So, like, obviously, the stim pack thing that massively increases mobility is not going to be here for Ansifii. At least it won't be HP tax that you use on the unit itself. If there is some sort of stim, it would be like a support utility unit. Actually, that's an area where we don't have any units whatsoever. We don't have any utility units that enchant allies or something. The closest you have is the soft spot. I think we can definitely do better than that. And maybe that's where we get something that pops out of the quarry, or we get a production facility that specifically generates those units, or something else. I'm not sure, but I think so far we're averaging way more than 4 structures per tier, which we might end up having way more structures than I thought initially. But I think this will, I mean, the thing is, like, it's 4 structures per tier for like the production facilities, and then 4 per tier for the tech requirements. And then I didn't factor in things like, you know, defensive structures, other town centers, that sort of stuff. So yeah, we might end up being closer to like 60 as opposed to 40. which is a lot to remember, I think. So I'll have to consider that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Originally, the soft spot was actually a tier 2 unit and required the dispatch, and it was trained at the quarry. I might still end up doing something like that, but I think the soft spot being tied to the Omni Bay isn't the worst thing in the world. The reason why I was initially against doing it was because of the fact that it seems like it's something that would be useful no matter which production facilities you have, but I think tying it to the orbital could make some sense as well. Maybe I'll find out that I actually don't like that. But even still, like, I think you're mostly going to be building at least one Omni Bay. You might not build one Fulcrum. That might be actually more situational than the orbital stuff. But the Omni Bay seems really useful with the Dispute and the soft spot especially now. Whereas I think you were always going to get it for some, maybe a couple of Auroras to fend off early air skirmishes. But you might not progress further down the orbital branch until maybe tier 5 or something when you get more considerable advantages for doing so. So yeah, I just have to think a little bit more about like what I want to do. And maybe the soft spot ends up being a hovering unit instead of an air unit and gets moved to armor, which would give you another reason to get fulcrums actually. I was thinking of actually having the shaman be a unit for some concept of the shaman where it's a AoE heal bot, which is essentially what the soft spot turned into, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I guess. Because their movement speed is reduced per link. So if they've got 10 links or more, they're frozen. So they become stationary. That might not actually be very intuitive in game though, so we'll have to wait and see about that one. But they're pretty spammable. Like they are individually kind of pricey for tier 1, but they also only have 10-second build times. So there will be something there. I'm not sure what exactly it's going to be, but there will be something there. Well, my feet hurt, and I don't feel like sitting down to do the rest of this stuff. So I think I'll just take a break, and paradoxically take a walk, because moving is actually less painful than not moving. So we did some pretty good work today. The plan for tomorrow, which will most likely not be live streamed, although we might do an engine live stream where I help. I'm in the background of Veek's stream. So if we do end up doing that, I will post about it in the area and ping people that are assigned to the dev stream ping, and we'll do some programming as opposed to doing concept work. Maybe I'll also do concept work alongside it, probably, if I had to guess. But we'll be doing, some work on Antikythera itself. I'll be working on some stuff related to the graphics ports while he works on whatever else he has to work on. So that might be tomorrow. I think we're going to try to do an every other thing where when I'm available on my other days where I'm not streaming, I will join him, but he will just try to stream every other day I'm not streaming. We can do that like perpetual thing where that way there's always a stream going on every day. It just depends on like which, who you feel like watching. If we can settle into a really good groove for that, that would be pretty epic actually. So all right. Obviously we have to do more Ansifii tech map stuff, and we also should note more mechanics. I'll say construction, and maybe there will be some others that I think of that we should note. And I think tomorrow I could probably also spend time creating the Cosmonarchy page and starting to note the control scheme with selection and all that stuff, and some of the stuff that's specific to playing the RTS as opposed to playing something else. The reason why I've been noting everything in the main Xibalba section is because these are global mechanics. So these will always be the case in any of the isometric games. So, what else do we have here? Yeah, I think that's probably fine. And I guess we will indeed leave it at that. Hope you guys enjoyed the epic stream, and I will return in 2 days for one of my own, and maybe return tomorrow for guest starring on Veeks. And until then, stay Xibalbian, stay fraudulent, and don't die. Bye.